Hey, Mr. Wiedmer here from Mr. Wiedmer's History. Welcome to 8.3, the Roaring Twenties, the last section of Unit 8. So we'll also have our unit review at the end of this video. So objective, you guys will be able to analyze the culture of the 1920s. Alright, we'll start off a little bit about 1920s. We have some big stars in the 1920s. One of the biggest names be Charles Lindbergh. Made the first non-stop solo trip across the Atlantic in his Spirit of St. Louis plane. Also made headlines when his baby got kidnapped. The Lindbergh baby case made national headlines and one of the most famous kidnappings of all time. So Charles Lindbergh. Alright, society was changing new directions with the automobile. One serious problem with the automobile is you have automobile accidents. Right? The automobile allowed people to move to the suburbs, thus making cities lose some of their luster as well. Alright, radios and movies discouraged Americans from creating their own amusement. Okay, radio, podcasts, movies became very, very popular during this time period. Okay, the rise of this entertainment. Movies, people went, on the average, about once a week to the movies. Big movie stars such as Charlie Chaplin, Groucho Marx, and the Marx Brothers became household names. There's Charlie Chaplin right there, and there's the Marx Brothers, very famous 1920s. Radio programming became very popular. Now, radio program isn't like, sitting down and listening to music. Today, you think of radio programming in the 1920s was very similar to television today, where you had programs and news and sports and comedies and all that stuff. That was what radio was back in the 1920s. That was their entertainment. You sit down, listen to the radio. You had TV, you had shows and sports broadcasts and news broadcasts, and everything came through the radio. And then many people read magazines, such as Life magazine became very popular. You look at the fashion of the day and how other people lived and whatnot. So Life magazine. Entertainment was a big industry in the 1920s. Also big was Route 66 from Chicago to LA. Now, Route 66 was the premier, as you see, the main street of America, the premier highway in America from 1920s until 1950s, the advent of the interstate, which really, ended Route 66. We think of it very fondly today, very nostalgic. It's a lot of little towns and stuff popped up along the way and, grew up to become big cities because of their location on Route 66. And in other towns, when the interstate came in, kind of, when it bypassed these little small towns, they withered and died. But Route 66, very famous highway, ended with the advent of the interstate in the 50s. Alright, big thing here about the 20s, prohibition. You couldn't buy, sell, drink, manufacture alcohol. Thanks to the 18th Amendment and the Volstead Act, 1919, which took effect in 1920 and lasted until 1933. So, the whole decade of 1920s, you couldn't buy, sell, drink, or manufacture alcohol. Now, did that stop people from doing that? No, it still happened, and it became a big business, okay, with the underground organized crime. Okay, with the 18th Amendment is the official, no alcohol, and Volstead Act enforces the 18th Amendment. Alright, crime was big business during the 1920s. You had like Al Capone, Butch Schultz, consolidated illegal liquor trade. Chicago became the mecca for Al Capone and the mobsters. Great video on Prohibition here from Oraka. Check it out on the Mr. Wiedmer History playlist of classroom videos. Prohibition Bureau was understaffed, underpaid. It was hard to do their job. The American government poisoned alcohol, killing thousands of people. People still drink. You can still get alcohol at shops such as Walgreens, and so many Walgreens popped up everywhere. Drugstores popped up everywhere because for municipal purposes, you can get alcohol. Okay, similar to like the marijuana today, for municipal purposes you can get it. And so the alcohol was still flowing, and speakeasies became popular. Hidden bars. You go to the back of the club, back of the building, have a special knock, have a passcode, and go in, and there's the bar. It's a hidden underground bar called speakeasies. And so you can't go to the store and buy alcohol anymore. These organized crime rose up, sold on the black market. Also have your rum runners, your moonshiners. NASCAR got its start back here in the 1920s because people would be running from the cops in their automobiles to, running alcohol from place to place. All right, very big, 1920s prohibition. It it was caused more problems than it solved, and it was reversed in 1933 with the 21st Amendment. Right, some gangsters were powerful enough to corrupt government. These are called untouchables. They utilized the Tommy gun, submachine gun. Thompson submachine gun was one of the most popular guns used, especially used like in such as St. Valentine's Day Massacre, where Al Capone's gang would massacre a rival gang in Chicago. Rural America supported prohibition. Cities opposed it. America's going to leave villages for the cities and farms and factories. More people are going to move into the cities in the 1920s. Women are going to branch out from their traditional stay at home, take care of the family, to express greater freedom. They want to be treated just like men. And so we had this women called the flapper. Alright, they demanded the same treatment as men, and they smoked, and they drank, dressed ways not approved, danced, went to clubs. They just did everything that a man would do and a woman traditionally would not do. So they're demanding more freedom and wanting more freedom, and they're doing that. And they're going wearing bathing suits that are very, today we would say, be very modest, but they're very provocative for the time period, 1920s. Right, so women are becoming more active in society, becoming more independent. And with that, couples having fewer children, divorce rates are going to increase, more women worked, women sought financial independence, many women became sales clerks, secretaries, or phone operators. So they're getting in the workplace, getting jobs. Conditions weren't the greatest for women, but at least they're becoming more independent and going out in the workforce and doing things for themselves. And so Amelia Earhart, she really, showed what women can empower, themselves and become great when she became the first woman to complete a solo flight across the Atlantic. Bessie Smith, Billie Holiday invented jazz and blues. Jazz and blues, that's an American music, traditionally in New Orleans, Kansas City. They're the hot spots for jazz and blues. Right, most Americans continue to believe that women's place are at home, though. This is the whole traditional versus modern. Traditionalist, modernist. There's clashing in the 1920s. Things were changing. It's an era of change. All right, and one most evident was women and the change in their lifestyles. And new household appliances, such as a refrigerator, vacuum, commercial laundries, canned foods, all made life easier at home. So you have more leisure time and more time, to do other things, such as go to the movies or listen to the radio, read magazines. Advertising was very big in the 1920s. How do you know what you need? Oh, you're going to have advertising, magazines, and on radio. You're going to and on billboards and everything. This advertisement went bananas during the 1920s. Alright, quick review. 1920s, from time of change from traditional values to modernity. Science and religion often clashed. New technologies such as the automobile, the radio, and movies helped change America. The 18th Amendment brought about prohibition, which led to the rise of organized crime. Bootleggers, speakeasies, gangsters such as Al Capone became infamous. The role of women was changing. Women became more independent. The flapper demanded the same treatment as men. They smoked, drank, wore revealing clothing. Women worked more and did great things, such as Amelia Earhart going across the Atlantic. The big thing about Amelia Earhart is, we don't know where she's at. She kind of just disappeared. And, the hunt still searches for Amelia Earhart's plane to this day. New appliances made life at home easier. Okay, achievements in the culture. American culture thrived in the 20s. Okay, with books and poems and playwrights. This lost generation that these people like Willa Cather, Robert Frost, they wanted to recapture a more innocent time in America, more traditional rural American values. Eugene O'Neill was one of the greatest playwrights of America. Ernest Hemingway's Farewell to Arms created a new literary style. T.S. Eliot's Hollow Man, The Wasteland. And these were more about just how awful the world was, and that they just critical of American life, critical of World War I, critical of the way things were going, and they're, that's why they call it the lost generation. They're just depressed about life, and they're going to write about it, and created some of the greatest literary works of all time. Right, skyscrapers come. Frank Lloyd Wright, famous architect, one of the famous buildings right there, one of my favorites. America produced new forms of music. Say jazz is an American music. New Orleans, Kansas City, hubs of jazz. Thomas Hart Benton, famous painter, we talked about earlier, movies became very popular. Motion picture industry moved from New York to California. And the birth of Hollywoodland. Yes, it used to be called Hollywoodland, not just Hollywood, where the motion picture industry was going and creating new movies, and made L.A. the big city it is today. Really started in the 1920s. You know, whole Route 66, moving out west. All right, change challenges in education. All right, school bus ended in one-room schoolhouse. High school and college enrollment increased dramatically. Great emphasis placed on science. Remember, this whole science and religion clashing in the 1920s. Things are changing. This is a good example of that. And none other than the Scopes Monkey Trial, 1925. John T. Scopes. He was one of the teachers willing to be arrested for teaching evolution. Now, in Tennessee, I do believe, it's illegal to teach evolution. So Scopes wanting to, challenge this because he thought it wasn't right. And so Scopes taught evolution, and he was arrested and put on trial for this. And the famous Scopes monkey trial, the monkeys obviously representing evolution, evolutionary theory that man came from apes. And so that's why it's called the Scopes monkey trial. And so teaching evolution. So Scopes was convicted because he did teach evolution. But William Jennings Bryan, conservative, was made to look like a fool in this. Even though he won, he was made to look like a fool. And this is a great example of Americans trying to resist the tide of social change. William Jennings Bryan, all traditionalists, laws against change, laws to keep tradition alive. America was changing here, and society was just falling apart. Society was just it was an evolution of society. In the 1920s, America became more modern. And one of the great examples of religion versus science is John T. Scopes' the Monkey Trial, 1925. All right, African Americans really had a cultural renaissance. Really started in Harlem and expanded all over the country. Writers such as Langston Hughes, Marcus Garvey was very famous also for this. Marcus Garvey, very famous for Back to Africa movement, Negro nationalism, exalted African American culture and traditions. This is all about paintings and novels and poems and sculptures and everything. Just the African American culture was just coming alive in the 1920s with music and just everything just coming alive. So it was equivalent to the Renaissance, a rebirth of African American culture into society, and it was just it's an amazing thing. Happened here in the 1920s. African Americans just rebirthed in society in great ways, and their culture is just coming out. Lesson review: 1920s was a time of change from traditional values to modernity. Science and religion often clashed. New technologies such as the automobile, radio, movies helped change America. 18th Amendment brought about prohibition. Volstead Act helped enforce that, which led to the rise of organized crime, bootleggers, speakeasies. Gangsters such as Al Capone became infamous. The role of women was changing. Women becoming more independent. Flapper demanded the same treatment as men. Smoked, drank, wore revealing clothing. Women worked more, did great things, such as Amelia Earhart flying across the Atlantic. Bessie Smith, jazz singer. New appliances made life easier at home. So great things were happening in the 20s. Culture was changing in literature, art, and architecture. Ernest Hemingway, T.S. Eliot led the Lost Generation. School bus helped end the age of one-room schoolhouse. Scopes Monkey Trial was about teaching evolution in schools. Scopes lost because, well, he did teach evolution against the law of Tennessee. But it really showed the culture clash between America and science and religion. It still goes on today. African Americans had cultural renaissance called the Harlem Renaissance, led by Marcus Garvey, Langston Hughes. All right, Unit 8 review here real quick. Harding, 1920 election, return to normalcy. Allies owed $10.3 billion to the U.S. They're going to cut that down by 30 to 80% of the Dawes Plan. Washington Naval Conferences want to reduce the size of the navies around the world, especially Japan. All right, Harding's economic policy, laissez-faire, also trickle-down economics. Restricted immigration, new immigration laws, 1921, 1924. Nativism, very much in the rise. None other than the Sacco Vanzetti case was the most famous. Two men got unfair trial because they were immigrants. All right, Harding's presidency, one of the most scandalous Ohio gang, Teapot Dome scandal, where Secretary Albert Fall accepted bribes to sell government land to big business so they can drill oil off these government lands that set aside for conservation. Alright, and so until next time, study history.